All right, welcome back everyone to another one of our college recruiting interviews. Excited that you guys are all tuning back in again. Got another one of our former top flight athletes going on to do great things, and we're getting a chance to talk with her and see what her opinion of everything was and how her process was. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So what's your name?
Hi, I'm Wiltsie.
Awesome. And what position did you play when you were at the junior level?
So I was an outside. And I played back row, so I have 6 rotations.
Okay. And then when did you graduate from Top Flight?
5 years ago, it was my 2015 was my last season there, so long time ago.
And what school did you end up studying and playing for?
So I went to North Park University. It is a D3 college in Chicago.
Okay. And while at North Park, what position did you end up competing for and playing for them?
I was still an outside. Surprisingly, you can't really tell through the video, but I'm a 5'6" athlete. So it wasn't very common to see shorter outsides, but I stuck with my position and I kept going after it.
Well, there you go. You just got to have the springs in the legs to be able to make sure you can hang with the big girls. So looks like you got the job done, which is cool. So now I also want to ask a question that is a little more atypical from what we do when we first start to introduce our people that we're interviewing. What is your current position? What are you doing for a job right now?
So I went back to school when I graduated last May. I am a volleyball graduate assistant for Elmhurst College. So I coach the girls, I do recruiting, I am learning all of the collegiate side of volleyball. So I'm in a different perspective in that now.
Awesome. So that's sorry, go ahead, say that last part again.
I'm getting my master's, so I'm continuing school right now.
Awesome. So that's really cool and definitely something that is unique in what we've thus far kind of experienced, having another individual that's seeing it from the other side. So we'd love to hear some of your perspective from both your personal experience as well as now being on the other side of things, kind of what you see on that side as well. So the focus on this that we're going to kind of talk about is the recruiting process as a whole, and kind of just not focusing on one specific area. But when you started thinking you were going to want to play at the collegiate level, around what time was it in your junior's career that you thought you might want to be interested?
It was about my junior season, I would say mid-club year, that I was just really, really passionate about volleyball, and I really wanted to keep playing it and stuff like that. And so then that was when I brought it up to my mom that I do want to continue playing volleyball and excelling in the game.
Okay. And then flipping it to the other side of now being a coach, being the assistant coach at Elmhurst, what are you noticing is the typical time that you're interacting with athletes? What grade year is it for them?
So I, as a graduate assistant, my head coach is talking to a lot of the seniors now, and I am really starting to interact with the juniors and just seeing their interests, what kind of schools they want to look at, if we have their major, if they want to stay in-state, out-of-state. So I'm kind of starting that first communication with them through email. I've talked to them on the phone. I'll go to the volleyball clubs and talk to them in person if I can. So usually junior year is good to start that initial relationship. Sometimes it is hard to recruit your senior year just because rosters are already filled up and you miss out on opportunities that you might have wanted when you were a junior.
Sure. And then kind of moving into it, with you personally, how did you start the process? So you started as a junior, but what were some of the first things you did? Did you just jump in right away to talking to coaches, or did you do research, or what was it that you first started your process with?
So even though I decided my junior year, I didn't start my recruiting process till my senior year in high school. So during my season, I went through the website NCSA. It's a very popular recruiting website. And I did pay for the subscription. There's a few different levels, and I first got my film ready. They did a really nice job editing the recruiting, my film and the highlights. And then I started researching schools that I would be interested in. So I really wanted to stay close to home. So I looked within the Chicagoland area because that is just my preference. I wanted my parents to see my volleyball games. So I kind of kept it close. And I just looked at size of school. I looked at if they had my intended major and just kind of like things, like positive things that I saw. So I did research, and then my film were like the first things that I did.
Okay, so you have a really nice perspective of how you kind of went through the process, but now being able to reflect back and seeing it from the coach's perspective, is there anything that you think you would have changed, a different way you would have started, or a way that you would suggest coming from the coach's standpoint? What a really great foundational beginning to the recruiting processes for any of the athletes just getting started.
So I thought I had a good foundation starting off. I had my film ready, and I had a basic email that I sent to all the coaches for like a first initial relationship. So I would advise having film ready because that's the first thing I look at. I prefer highlight films, so seeing one skill one after the other just to see like how technical you are and like if you can hit different shots and stuff. And just having like a nice introduction of like what you want, what you're looking for in a school, just to see if we can match that profile. I do also recommend, I have a lot of players, like we are a D3 college. And so when I go recruit, I say that, we're a D3 college based out of Chicago. And a lot of them are just instantly like, I'm not even looking at D3, I'm looking at D2, D1. Like they just totally don't even think about that division. Well, for the CCIW, we are one of the most competitive conferences in like the Midwest. So girls should always just look at any school regardless, just to see if it fits their personal preferences besides, canceling out the other ones.
Sure. So going back to when you were the athlete in the middle of the recruiting process, what did you come to find was the most difficult part for you?
For me, I would say getting that first initial contact. I have emailed coaches 2 or 3 times. I even emailed the coach that I work for 2-3 times, and she never even responded to me. For me, since I am a short outside, some of them just didn't even look at my height and never really gave me a chance. But I was able to, bother them completely until they finally responded to me. So I think that is the most difficult part.
Okay. And then the reverse end of that, what did you feel like was the easiest part for you?
Well, the easiest part would be then connecting with the coach. I'm a very personable and talkable person. So after getting that first talk, like I just connected really well with the coaches, and they're like, oh, well, it turns out you are just like a great person. I'm like, well, thank you. So that would be the easiest.
Good. And then looking at those 2 types of things from the coach's standpoint, and not what is the easiest or most difficult part for you, like as a coach, but what becomes the most difficult part for the athletes to complete for you as the coach? Because obviously you have some tick boxes or some check marks that you're trying to make sure happen before they move kind of from working with you to working with your head coach. So what do you come to find is an area that the athletes seem to struggle and might be an area that our athletes want to make sure they focus on not having it be one of the weaker areas?
So after I have started communication with an athlete, it is pretty simple. Just kind of getting a feel for who they are, seeing their film. If I could pass it on to my head coach, go, what do you think of this athlete? I saw these positive things from her. She goes, well, I'll talk to her too. And the hardest part that I've come to find is getting girls on campus. It is one of the most difficult things just because with school, club volleyball, there's never like a good time. And especially for girls who are out of state, like it is even more difficult. And what's really crucial about that point is when we have girls visit, then it's really up to us and our team to really make a good first impression. But that usually comes easier because I am confident in my team, but the hardest part is getting them on campus.
Okay. Now looking back towards when you were the one trying to get recruited, was there something you feel like you should have, or if you could do it over again, you would do differently? Or do you feel like you pretty much approached and attacked the recruiting process in a very successful way, and you would do it the same way just as you did before?
I thought my approach initially was really good. I just wish I would have started sooner. So I wish I would have started my junior season and stuff like that to visiting, because I did have schools just saying we've completed our roster for the 2015 season. And so I did miss on that opportunity, but I thought my initial email was good, my lines of communication, and my film was good.
Okay. Now, as that athlete trying to get recruited, what did you feel like back then? And this very much is going to be then, how is it now with you being the coach? What did you feel back then, though, when you were at the player, was what you were most frequently getting asked about?
I was getting asked a lot of who I was like on the court. Just kind of like who you are as an athlete. You know, there's a lot of like players kind of have different personalities on the court. Some of them are very loud. Some of them are very determined in terms of just like it's not like fun to them. It's more of just like very like, I don't know how to explain it, but just different personalities on the court. And
For sure.
So they always ask me like, they ask me very situational questions, like how would you react if your player was late? How did you react if balls kept dropping? And just kind of see who I was as an athlete.
Sure. Now,
And
flipping that as a coach is going to be my follow-up. No, you're totally fine. Do you come to find that you're asking that type of question a lot as well? Or are there like specific questions that you feel you personally, maybe your head coach, or even other coaches in the community that you seem to be is now the trending, really important hot topic buzz question?
So my head coach does a lot of the when they come to visit, she does a lot of the talking, but I do see her ask those type of same questions. She likes to ask like, what do you like better? Do you like club or school season? We want to see if you like the competitiveness more, or if I'm just here because it's my friends are doing it, I'm having a good time. Which I have had players say that, like, it's just a lot of fun. But my coach really likes to see, I like club better. The competition is better. It's more serious. This is something I really want. And she also does situational. We want to see like, how would you react to a teammate being late? Are you going to step up as a leadership role and just say, hey, like this is serious. We need to be here on time, and just kind of seeing how they are as a player.
Sure. And is there something, and this is an easier question probably for you to come at from the coach's standpoint, is there something from a skill or a characteristic that you are consistently like, this is a needed trait that we have to have in the athletes that come to our program? Or is it pretty always individual across the board per athlete?
I'd say the most common one is hustle, because at the collegiate level, there is no time to slack. So when I go to tournaments and go recruit, I am looking at how fast are you transitioning out every play? Are you standing up in between the ball, like going over the net? Are you getting back from base to defense? If I see walking on the court kind of, or ball flies and she doesn't hustle to it, it's just kind of like, well, I don't know if it's a bad game or what, but that's not a key trait. So I see a lot of hustle. I want to see how aggressive they're going at it. And just seeing just like overall like heart and passion for the game.
Sure.
Especially at the D3 level, you can't always get the super tallest people. So I am more looking at people who are like me, just like undersized, who are smart with the ball. They're craftier. They're getting after the game more, rather than just having height as their advantage.
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. All right. So last little piece then that we'll finish the interview up with is parting advice. What do you want, taking from both sides, your experience when you went through it as an athlete and looking from it from the other side now as the coach? What parting advice do you have for the athletes who are in the middle of the recruiting process or just starting the recruiting process? What's going to make it the best scenario, best experience, and best result for them?
So I had the same perspective from when I was recruiting to now being as a coach. Whenever I have an athlete on campus, my number one advice is that you really have to like the school. Like volleyball is like the most important thing to me, and it was what I wanted the most. But volleyball is only 20% of your time in college, and compared to 4 years of living on campus and going to school and hanging out with people. So I had the luxury, since I was so close to all of the schools I was looking at, I visited campus like 2, maybe 3 times. And when I went to North Park, I just had like an amazing gut feeling that just like, man, I love this campus. I can picture myself here. All the girls on the team were amazing. Because if you don't connect with the girls and you don't have a good relationship, like you want to meet them, but it's like those will be your teammates for the next 4 years, your best friends for life and stuff. And if you don't even have a good relationship with them, then your volleyball career just won't be as amazing as it should be. But you should really like get a good feeling with the school, because that is like your home for the next 4 years, which is a long time, and they're the best years ever. So I recommend.
I totally agree with that, Lauren. I'm so glad. That definitely sounds like a great piece of advice. And one of the things that's really nice, because again, it's one more last perspective that we have that was different from the rest of what our interviews have been. So that's really exciting. And it's great to have had this situation where you're not only coming from it from a athlete's perspective, having gone through it, but you now are almost immediately going into the situation of being a coach and on that other side of the perspective. So one last time, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be part of this interview series with us. We really appreciate the information you have given us, and it's really going to help the athletes. So I want to wish you all the best, and we're excited to see what Elmhurst is able to do in the future, and hopefully you guys have some really good seasons, okay?
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm glad I can help.
Not a problem. Thanks so much. See you, Lauren.
Bye.